You are listening to the Antler and Feather Co. podcast. All right, hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Antler and Feather Co. podcast, the podcast for the new hunter, the adult onset hunter, and any other hunter who, like myself, has no idea what we're doing, but we're in the woods anyway because we absolutely love it. I'm a newer hunter, like I said on the last one, and I'm constantly trying to learn as much as I can about hunting, and I just want to share it with you guys. So, today on episode number 2, we get to talk to a guy who has become a pretty good buddy of mine over the last few months, helping me get this podcast up and running, fielding all my random questions. He, along with his brother-in-law Cam, have a great project going called Just One Outdoors, as well as their own podcast, the Just One Outdoors podcast. Austin has a big love for hunting and fishing as well as Jesus and is an all-around solid guy. So we're going to discuss today Austin's leap into elk hunting. Austin isn't necessarily a new hunter. He's been hunting his whole life, which I'm sure we'll get to that. But this year he's decided he wants to tackle elk hunting. So I want to kind of get all the background information. I'm basically becoming a new hunter again and seeing how he's preparing for that. So without further ado, welcome Austin to episode number 2. Austin, what's going on, man?
Episode 2. Man, I am excited to be here.
We're doing big things.
This is awesome. I mean, I remember when we had you on our podcast and we kind of started talking about, you were thinking about starting a podcast, all this stuff, and now we're here. And it's awesome. I'm
we made it.
To join you on this journey because, like your Instagram, it's not just for the new hunter, it's for experienced hunters. You know, you've challenged me to, hey, I need to get out and get shooting my bow and do stuff like that to start preparing for season.
Yep.
You know, I may not be doing the same steps as a new hunter as going through hunter's ed or anything, but I still need to be doing the steps to prepare me for season. So I'm loving following along on your Instagram and all that, but now you have the podcast, so I'm really excited for this.
We're doing it. And one thing I've noticed, and like I said in the intro, it seems like the cool thing about hunting is there's always avenues to be new again. Mm-hmm. So it's not only just focusing in on new deer hunters and what they can do, but then, yeah, like yourself, experienced guys who by no means is a new hunter, but now you're in a new endeavor that's got a whole new set of obstacles, a whole new approach. I'm assuming I've never really seriously looked into elk hunting, although I might after this. But watching guys like Cam Haynes, I'm like, we're not doing that for whitetail season, you know? So before we get into it, I'm going to say a quick prayer to kick us off. And then I've got one thing I want to start off with that is, again, a new endeavor that you started a day or two ago that I'm really interested in how it's going. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and do a quick prayer before we kick in. So, Lord, I thank you for Jesus. I thank you for what he did on the cross in our place. And I thank you for Austin. I thank you for his willingness to come on here. And I thank you for all the listeners. I thank you that this whole thing is just kicking off and it's so much fun. And it's a way to glorify you and your creation. I think there's a lot of people who would benefit from experiencing the things that you've created. And if this can get one of those people closer to you through being out in the woods, then that's awesome. And I just want to glorify you in everything I do. And we just ask that you be over this conversation today. And we just ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so here's the big thing I want to know about. I saw on your Instagram you have started snake wrangling. So tell me how you got into snake wrangling.
Oh my gosh.
And how that's going for you.
So, oh my gosh, that was so bizarre. We were out at public land on a pond that is a big pond, can fish it. My first time out there, and there were snakes everywhere. I mean, that was not the first.
Are these water moccasins or are these just water snakes?
I think they were just water snakes. I didn't want to get close enough to find out.
Might as well be water moccasins.
Yeah, I mean, and they look so similar, like, at least to me.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know my snakes very well, but that's probably something I need to figure out but I think it had some bands, so I think it was a banded water snake. But
Yeah.
I was casting, I was fishing, and then this snake kept swimming by us. So I was trying to splash the water around it by casting just to scare it off. Well, next thing I know, there's like, all of a sudden my line has some weight on it. And I'm like, oh, I have to fish. Next thing I know, this snake has bit my worm that I had on. I had, it was like a Cinco worm, just a long one. And it bit the end of it. Luckily, it didn't get the hook, but it was trying to work its way up to just swallow the whole worm. And I was like, if this...
So he hit it. He hit it under the water.
It
wasn't one of those normal, like you were dangling in front of him things.
It was like I must have hit him with it, like coming through the water because I was reeling fast to try to keep it on top. And I must have hit him with it, and he grabbed it. But we pulled him to shore, and my buddy Clyde, who I actually met through podcasting and doing all that, he was there fishing with me, and he grabbed like 2 metal stakes after obviously recording the video because you have to get the content. He grabbed like 2 things and like went at the snake and like was beating on the ground. Didn't have to hit the snake or anything, and the snake let go. But I was terrified it was going to hook in, and then I was like, I really don't know what to do here. But it was...
You cut the line and cut your losses.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. I mean, I've always told my wife I want to go down to Florida and python hunt, so I'm just starting here in Missouri, some smaller snakes.
Right. It's like it's basically like training wheels. Start small, get yourself ready.
Get a little bigger, yeah.
And then go after the 15-foot ones that'll literally eat your whole body.
Yeah, I mean...
Sounds like a good plan.
I think it is.
Man. Well, I'm sure if your podcast and your Instagram and everything doesn't take off, you look like you have a promising career. So I would, stick with it. So
I posted a video. My dad sent me something that was like the Florida. There's a show with Daryl from The Office on Prime.
Okay.
It's about like this snake hunting competition where they kill pythons, and apparently it's a real thing. I didn't know it was a real thing, but my dad sent me this post from Governor DeSantis that was like promoting this in August, this snake hunting thing. Like kind of like
he's a Republican when he's promoting that.
It was crazy, but I'm like, I put a post up on our story and was like, who's joining my team? And I literally had like 3 guys reach out, and one guy was even like, yeah, I actually just signed the contract to start doing this down in southern Florida as my job.
Oh, no kidding.
It's like, what?
Wow.
It's like, okay.
Who knew?
So apparently it could be a career move for me.
I've done worse jobs for less money. I mean,
crazy
so stuff. Just before we get into like the whole elk journey, if people want to know your hunting background, I'm sure you've discussed it a lot on your own podcast, and I would definitely recommend you guys go listen to that one as well. It is a great podcast. Just a quick, like, what's your hunting background going into this?
Yeah, so I started hunting when I started shooting guns when I was like 8 or 9. And I think my dad first took me in the woods when I was probably 12, because I think I was legally able to shoot a gun in Illinois with him there or something. It was something weird. But he took me out, and a story I haven't really shared is it was like our first afternoon sit. I kept telling him, I hear a deer to our left. I hear a deer. I know there's a deer there. And out steps a huge 12-point drop tine buck. And all he had was a 410, and it was at 70 yards.
Oh.
And in Illinois, you have to hunt with a shotgun. So, long story short, he shoots at it after watching it for a couple hours, knocks it into a creek. We don't know if he hit it or not. It runs. My grandpa hits it in the shoulder, but hit the shoulder blade. And with a slug, it didn't go through the shoulder blade. And we tracked it for probably 3 hours after that, onto someone else's land, got permission, went over there, and we kind of decided to cut our losses. And right about that time is when we hear a shotgun go off, and verbally hear someone start screaming like his head off, like he just killed a giant. And we're like, yep, So that was like one of my first experiences. My dad did get an 8-point later, and I'm pretty sure I beat beat the bullet to the deer, because I was out there, the deer dropped, my dad had to literally like yell at me to stop, and I just fell in love with it. And there are so many hunting stories since then, but fell in love with it. Now I hunt down here in southwest Missouri, and it's a different ball game, unlike Iowa or Illinois with some corn, but it's still fun, still my passion, and I'm now at the point where I'm looking to expand it a little bit. I actually, just in our recent podcast, we talked with a guy, and in early September, I'm going up to hunt with him and chase velvet deer. So
nice. Where are you doing that
Nebraska. So
cool.
Kind of, I've killed quite a few deer here in Missouri, so now it's kind of expanding my horizons to go chase deer. I want to chase some whitetail. Whitetail's my favorite. So I want to chase whitetail, Kansas, Illinois, Iowa, all those places, like most people who hunt whitetail do. So I'm going to start doing that, but since I was a kid, I dreamed of elk hunting. My cousin did it. My cousin actually had access to a golf course in the Colorado Springs area to kill just about as many as he wanted, because they were friends with the owner of the course, and through like the permit system or whatever, they were able to get kind of like land management permits. So they would go out.
That's like the hookup of the century.
What's that?
So that's like the hookup of the century.
Yeah. It was insane. They would just go on a golf course and shoot elk. So, I grew up seeing that, and now, I'm trying to make it happen this year. So, I'm really trying, and I've been doing my research, and also if it doesn't end up happening this year, it's happening next year. So, still preparing, still planning. But yeah, it's for a non-resident, it's a bit more of a task.
Yeah. Are you planning to do rifle or bow or?
So since we first talked, I was planning to do rifle because of the success rate. I mean, it's not a huge success rate, but it's a better one. But I got to really thinking and talking with some guys who live out in Colorado, and it's just like, if I'm going to pay for the non-resident tag, I want to hear an elk bugle. I want that experience. So I'm going to go archery, because I could pay, it's this year it's a $700 tag. So I could pay that and go, to me it seems like deer hunt in the mountains with a rifle. I mean, the elk aren't bugling then, they're in the thick stuff. It sounds a lot like deer hunt. So I'm like, I want to hear them bugle, I want that different experience, and if I'm hearing them bugle, even one close encounter, and spending 7 days camping in the mountains, I'll pay that much money for that experience, even if I don't.
Yeah, for sure. So in Colorado, I guess I kind of transitioned into maybe some of the things you had to do to set this up. Are you going an OTC tag, so over-the-counter tag, or did you have to put in, is there like a raffle system or a point system?
Yeah, there's a bit of both, and there's no, I'll say this right now, there is no perfect way to do any point system. Everyone can do it different. You get this in your head of, I need to apply it this time and do this, and then apply it this state and do this, and all that stuff. There's no perfect formula. So what my plan is I put in for a point this year, and that's a whole process that we can get into in a little bit. But I put in for a point, I got the point, and then I'm going to save those over the years and try to get, 3, 4, 5 elk hunts in just over the counter and get some experience. And then when I have, say 10 years down the road, I can cash my points in for one of the trophy areas, or more trophy area, and hunt that big elk that, everyone dreams of. But right now, that's kind of my plan. But honestly, I talked with guys that all you need is 1 point to get drawn. There are some units where some people are lucky enough to not even have a point and draw. But those units are usually not the best units, things like that. But
how do they gauge that? Do you know? Like, how do you? Because I'm not super familiar with the different units and zones, but like, how do they gauge what's going to be a good, like, you're going to cash in all your points for this one hunt versus something that's, I guess, of lesser value?
I think I haven't actually done a ton of research on it, but I believe it's based on kind of the historical data from that area. How successful were the hunters at archery, rifle, and then I think it looks at, okay, did they kill a 6x6? Did they kill a spike or whatever? And there are a lot of companies that map the elk, so they're constantly studying the elk, where they're moving, and different things like that. So some of it, especially in the mountains, is just the terrain and the area you're in. Because if you go to Southwest Colorado, you're getting more into deserty type, as opposed to like north of Denver, where it's the tall evergreens, rains every day, super humid, almost forest-like.
Right.
So that's kind of how I believe they gauge it. I can't say that's how they gauge it, but based on what I've seen, that's how they do it.
So are you going to be in like more of the mountainous Cam Hanes type stuff, or are you are you having to like get your fitness under control, or?
I am. Since I decided to start, I have it's not out, but I have a backpack and some trekking poles. And I bought a kettlebell, a 35-pound kettlebell, just to throw in the bag and carry around. Just to start getting fitness level up. I'm a pretty fit guy, but the mountains can kill you. So I started working on that to just be prepared. And one thing that I've done is I found a university. It's called Elk 101 or Elk Hunting University or something. And I started going through that. And one thing the guy says is, if you're more fit tomorrow than you were yesterday, you're doing the right thing. So he kind of doesn't say you have to be, this fit to kill this type of elk. No, he just says, if you're doing the right things, getting out, moving, going on hikes, going on rocks, lifting some weights. You don't have to take it to the extreme, but you should probably be doing stuff to better yourself. And that's kind of what I've started doing. I'm not doing heavy weights or anything like that, but I am preparing myself for high altitude walking, maybe 10 miles in a day. So.
Yeah. That's one of the more intimidating things I think that I've noticed about elk hunting, especially when, it doesn't. Me personally, I thought there was maybe an area for whitetail and just your general hunter, like, hey, we got a space for new hunters, which is kind of what I'm doing. There doesn't seem to be many of those people elk hunting. Like, you see, like, all the big Cam Hanes. I'm just going to use him again. Like, he's like the face of elk hunting, and it's like, man, you watch how hard that dude trains, and it's like, I think everybody's capable of that, but I don't think everyone has a discipline level, and it's like, is that where you got to be? But I mean, it's like that's one interesting part of the elk hunting. Like I said, just the new systems you have to go through just to get legal to do it. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, now you should probably focus on fitness as well. Mm-hmm. And it's just like a next level endeavor. So that's awesome that you're going after it, and I hope you have awesome luck. And when you kill one, give me a call. I'd be happy to come try some elk meat. They claim it's awesome, but that's awesome. So what did the process look like when you got started? I mean, you talked kind of about how you went about getting tags, but what are some other things that popped up that you didn't really expect?
Well, last year it was my wife saying no. That was a big one.
That's the end of that.
I think that's where you need to start. Is make sure your home life is prepared for you to be gone for a week. and different things like that. You know, a lot of guys are leaving their wives or kids or different things like that. And one thing that, you know, my wife and I have talked about is, okay, she's giving me permission. Now, you know, it's making sure that she's prepared, whether that she goes and visits her family or whatnot. That's like the first step that I think everyone needs to take, is just making sure your home life is good, because you're going to be gone for a while. And you're probably not going to be, it's not going to be an area where you can pick up the phone and call. You know, you're out in the mountains where you're probably not going to have much service, if any. So that's the first step. And then it kind of just, I kind of started with Steve Reinold and just watching Meat Eater. And obviously, I've said it in our podcast, I've told you this, I don't believe that's hunting. And not to take away from him, he does hunt, he works, but the show is not hunting. That's not what hunting is.
Right.
It's a lot more work, and he puts in the work. I'm not saying that he doesn't hunt. He does it right, just like Cam Haines. I mean, there are guys who put in the work. But I started watching that and just trying to pick up the little things that he's showing on the show. And then I went from there to YouTube and started watching some of the guys who elk hunt constantly. You know, Cam Haines, guys like that, and going, okay, what are they doing now? And then I just so happened to stumble upon this Elk Hunters University course that has walked me through everything from what's in their packs. Are they doing this, you know, kind of like a day hunt, or are they carrying camp on their back? Or how are they doing that? And just kind of walked me through those steps of, okay, I need to prepare. I need to probably get a better sleeping bag. Probably need to do this, you know, and start going through that list, and then walking into the, okay, how do I find a unit? And what do I want to look at? And a lot of it came from looking online at the Colorado Department of Wildlife page, and just looking at their books. You know, every state puts out that book of all the rules and regulations that are there, and no one ever knows them all, but they're in there.
Yeah.
I really studied that.
Just hope you know the right ones.
So studied that, made sure I knew, okay, here's the units. And part of what I'm probably planning on doing, depending on how some things play out in the future, is I'm planning on going to an area that's over the counter that I've visited on vacation before. It's, you know, I haven't done any elk scouting out there. I haven't walked, I've done some hikes, but they're the popular, you know, everyone hikes those, so I'm not going to be hiking those type of areas. But I've seen the terrain a little bit. I kind of have a feel of, I've seen the elk out there, I kind of have a feel of where they're moving and different things like that. So my plan is to hunt a unit around that area, so I know that. Now, if some things play out a little different, I might be going with someone that lives out there who might take me to a different unit that I know nothing about, but he does. And I think that's important, is picking that unit that you know maybe a little something about, even if that's just researching online.
So are you planning on, you're not using an outfitter, correct? Mm-hmm. Totally on your own. Yeah. Are you planning on just getting out there and camping at night, or have you gotten that far in your plan yet? Or
so again, it kind of depends on how things play out. I have a couple options. There's one that a buddy of mine from college actually drew a tag that took him 9 years to draw. But because of a new job, he might be turning that tag back in and getting the point and then applying later. If that happens, I'm probably going to go with him because he elk hunts every year. If not, if that doesn't work out, it'll probably be a year from now, and I'll be doing a do-it-yourself hunt with probably Cam, my dad, and then my other brother-in-law, and maybe some of his family. And we'll be going out there. We'll put together whatever we have, you know. Hey, who has, you know, a pole tent? Who has an RV? Who has, you know, X, Y, or Z? And putting together what we can, and then we'll either set up camp, or if if it comes down to it, we'll pack camp on our back and, find a place every night to camp and try to find out, and so that's a little bit more up in the air on how I'll do it, but I have plans for both ways.
That's cool. I gotta imagine it's like, you think getting into deer hunting, and it is expensive, and depending on the stuff you buy, whether it's your camo, if you saddle hunt, or if you are doing a stand, like, it's expensive to get into, but like, elk has to be a completely different toolkit. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you just got to spend a bunch of time on researching what to take, what not to take, because at least with deer hunting, generally, if you're really going in deep, you're going like a few miles, and you're going to come out that day. Whereas when you're elk hunting, I would be like afraid. You know how it is where it's like you own 3 skinning knives and you're like, I only need 1, but you end up taking 3, So like, how's your process been, I guess, of process of elimination or addition to like putting the whole kit together?
My big thing has been research, and not just researching one person. I've researched 3, 4, 5 other guys and what they carry in their pack. And my original plan was to carry camp on my back. So I did the research of, okay, what does this guy who's teaching the Elk University class, what does he put in? Okay, what does Campaigns put in? Okay, what does my friend Dan put in? What do all these guys bring with them? And through that, I kind of went, okay, so here's the basics of what I need. And honestly, it's not too different from deer hunting until you get into camping. Because then you're carrying a sleeping bag, probably want a sleeping pad, then you're going to need like some way to boil water, whatever that may be. And then you have to look at, well, do I need to bring like a jet boil, or will I be able to start a fire out there? Because some places in Colorado, with the extreme droughts and stuff, don't allow you to have fires at that time of year.
Right.
So then you're kind of brainstorming that, and then I haven't bought one yet, but like a water filtration system. What do I need for that? What type works best? The thing I have bought is the little like iodine tablets. A lot of guys will carry those because they're small and lightweight, and if they need water in an emergency situation, say their filtration system broke or something, they still have those little tablets that can provide clean drinking water. So just things like that, really narrowing down the essentials of, what do I need to survive? And then it's just, I don't necessarily carry too many knives or anything. It's just kind of narrowing down what I need for deer hunting, honestly. I want my rifle and my bow. I obviously want a pair of binos. The thing that I did buy that's a little different is a spotting scope. Because I was planning to rifle hunt, but it's going to be crazy, but I'm probably going to use my spotting scope for deer, even though I'm only looking like 200 yards.
Oh, yeah.
I bought one of those. I'm really excited for this. I bought a phone.
Costs too much to not use it all the time.
I built like this elevated box blind, so I have the perfect place to put it up, and then I'll have my phone scope, so I'll put that on there.
Nice.
And if I'm praying it works out this season, but zoom in like 60 times, like right on the deer, and then be able to see right where I shoot, record it and everything. We'll see if that happens. I'm still going to try it, but that's the only different thing I've used, and I'll still take it out to Colorado when I go, just because, if I can see a mile or two down with this, and I'm like, that looks like it might be an elk, and I look through it, I'm like, okay, that's an elk. I know where I have to go. So even with archery hunting, that's kind of been my process. I haven't had to weed anything out quite yet, just because I'm not sure exactly where I'm going, what time of year. Actually, now I'm going earlier September, so that kind of takes out some of the colder weather deer, because it won't be as cold. So, but once it comes closer to time, I'll really start going, okay, is this necessary weight? Do I need this to survive?
Right.
One thing, like obviously I have the Instagram and podcast and YouTube and all that. I want to be able to record. Well, do I want to bring my big DSLR camera, my phone scope, my GoPro, all that, and then also bring a battery system, or do I just want to go all in on the GoPro and that down with it? You know, so
yeah. Well, and that adds a whole nother element to something that's already going to be, not that it's going to be complicated, but you're going to be, you know, doing something brand new, and it's like, and I'm going to try to record it. Mm-hmm. And I found when I was just messing around a little bit during turkey season, it's hard enough to hunt turkeys, and then when you're trying to set things up to record too, like that's a whole nother element of like, I don't know. I don't know how some of these guys, I don't know how they do it. I'm going to try it this year as well. And the deer, you know, when I get up, and I'm going to try it, but I feel like I would be fumbling around too much, and either I would do something stupid and jump the deer off, or it'd be like my grandpa. I remember my grandpa used to videotape every wrestling match I had. And I'm wrestling right here, and he's watching me, and the camera drifts this way, and he's screaming because I did something awesome, but you don't see it. You're watching some other kid over there. But, no, I mean, that would be awesome if you could integrate recording your first one, too, and making a whole deal out of that. That would be sweet. But one thing I can tell you, as an unexperienced elk hunter, I've done some research. And the most important part of elk hunting, and I'm not kidding about this, you have to bring Crocs with, whether you wear them or not. You've got to dangle them off your pack. Otherwise, you're not killing anything. That's what I heard anyway.
I have told my wife I want the camel fuzzy Crocs for about a year.
I got some sitting right over there.
The problem is I just can't bring myself to paying $60 for a pair of those or $60 for 6 bags of corn to get my deer. So it's like, it's one of those handoffs that I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. I'll pull it soon because I'm going to need them for all the deer camps I have planned for this year. So I'll do it soon, and then we'll dangle in Colorado.
On one side of it, I would say you can buy corn next year. You buy this one time this year, these things are going to last you for a while. I've got a pair that has been through hell. I mean, they're actually, the fuzzy ones are so warm. I was doing scouting in the snow during deer season, and they were like nicer than my hunting boots. And I was like, I might as well just wear these. But I get across the water too much, so I'm like, I don't want those things on my feet if I go in, because I have a tendency to find the water when I fall in more than I should. So I haven't done that yet. I did turkey hunting Crocs, though, so I can vouch for them. I think you should give up the corn for 1 year.
All right.
That's my, like I said, I don't know much, but I do know that I've never seen an elk hunter without Crocs.
Right? They all have them.
But,
and I've noticed it, too.
So are you... I'm not trying to like pick your plan apart too much. I'm just really curious. You've gone to one of the areas that you might potentially hunt. Are you doing anything else in terms of like e-scouting, using Onyx or Spartan 4, whatever it may be? Have you done any e-scouting? Is that as helpful with elk hunting? Because I'm sure the terrain is so much different.
I've had to learn how to read topographical maps. I'll say that. I've really had to learn that, but yeah, I'm doing a ton of e-scouting. Every little nook and cranny that I'm like, I mean, you should see my Onyx. I'll have to send you a picture of it and like hide where I'm going because it's only my spot. Whatever. But I have little pins everywhere on Onyx, and I use Onyx. To me, it's the most simple. It makes the most sense, but that's just me. And I use that to I've looked at the area, and then I actually use Google Maps and Google Earth a lot, just because they seem to have the most up-to-date images. Because Onyx, I mean, it won't pick up an avalanche that happened this year and cleared out a whole area.
Right.
So I kind of look at that, and you're able to go 3D and look. There's nothing as valuable as getting boots on the ground, obviously, but that's what I'm doing because, Missouri to where I'll be hunting is about 17 hours. So you can't really go out there for a weekend and scout and all that. So I've been doing quite a bit of that, and just marking places anywhere I see. One thing I'm not sure what to think of yet, and you may be able to tell me, but when I zoom in on trailheads that I'm like, oh, this looks like a good area, the elk could be moving here. I zoom in on a bunch, and there's always 3 RVs parked there, and I'm like, I'm not sure I want to go there. So but it's been a process, and by no means am I done. And if I go, if I end up going, not this year, but the year after, I'll spend all that extra time looking at places. Because one thing I've learned is, especially during rifle season, I'm looking up at my rifle. I have it hanging on the wall. It looks so pretty. But one thing during rifle season is a lot of times the mature elk will find kind of they call it sanctuary, or for us deer hunters, hard cover, hardwoods type stuff, thick type places. And a lot of times they say, if you look at an area when you're in the mountains and go, whew, I would not want to go up there. Usually where you're going to have to go to kill one.
That's where you got to go.
At least for rifle, and now that I've kind of made the switch to archery, it's a bit different because I'll be calling. They won't necessarily be in those hard to reach places. But for rifle, I've heard that if you find that sanctuary place, a lot of elk hunters keep it quiet because year after year after year, you'll probably find an elk there because that's where they go to live, their quick escape and different things like that. So, I'm marking all those places that I'm like, oh, that could be a sanctuary place. That could be just for future too. So I decide to pick up a rifle and go rifle hunt one. I'll have these places already scouted. So, yeah.
So is September is the elk rut time frame, right? Is that is it generally the beginning of do they rut for the same time period as a deer would? Or is it kind of all of September, or? I
think it's depending on the area you're in and the elevation and all that, but I've heard the second and third week of September are kind of the golden times. I've read that October 11th is the golden time for white-tailed deer. So that's just something I've read, and there's some proof to it. But that's what I've heard is that second and third week of September is really the golden time, but depend on the summer, the year, different things like that. But it's hard to tell because I was talking to a guy at church today. He already saw a deer that was that had hard antlers. Velvet was gone.
Really?
Yeah. He said it was a nice size.
That seems real early.
Yeah. So nice size 9-point. So I'm looking. I was talking to him. I'm like, so does that mean the rut is going to happen? Usually where I'm at, end of October, end of October. It's happening, September, right when it starts. And he was like, yeah, I think so. I mean, if that's what we're seeing. And honestly, yesterday I was checking my corn, and I know we're supposed to be talking about elk, but this goes to show you don't know animals because, you'll never know them for sure. Because I was checking some corn and putting some cameras out and different things, and I saw a nice buck. I saw it running, so I wasn't able to make it out fully. But its tines looked white. So I was like,
really?
Could its velvet already be gone? So I'm hoping my cameras will pick it up and let me know. But I mean, I'm sure it's the same with elk. It's hard telling when it's going to happen, but you can tell it happen.
Right. Does your tag, what's the tag duration? Is it kind of you buy a bow season tag and it's from whatever, so whenever you can get there? Unlike, I don't know about your state, but for us, turkey season, for instance, you have 4 different seasons within the season. So you can either buy this 4-day chunk, but so elk is just
Yeah, it's split up into, there's four rifle seasons that are kind of like your turkey, where it's you can buy one for first rifle, second rifle, so on. And then there's all of September is archery, and then early October, I believe it is muzzleloader. And those seasons just kind of, I think you buy it for the whole season.
Yeah.
And when you put it for a point or for the draw system, you have to choose, do I want a bull? Do I want a cow? Do I want to do rifle or archery or muzzleloader? And you have to specify that so that, you're coming out at this time. And
Gotcha.
That's kind of how it's set up. So it's kind of it sounds like it's a little bit of a mix of both.
Yeah. So with all I assume this elk prep is taking up a lot of your allotted time for hunting related things. Do you hunt private land for deer, mm-hmm. or do you has anything how are you preparing for this upcoming deer season alongside elk, or is your kind of for me? Like I said, I'm pretty much only on public land, so my prep's all over the place, just trying to get out and get boots on the ground, see what's changed from last year, see, what all kinds of stuff's going on. But are you in kind of one of those setups where it's it's pretty much the same every year, or is it more involved than that? And yeah, has anything changed with your deer prep? Are you less excited about deer season now, or?
Not at all, actually. I kind of had a life change, circumstance change, I guess. I graduated from college, was a soccer player. Soccer took up most of my time during deer season and during the summers and all. So I didn't do a lot of prep for deer or anything, really. It just kind of went out to hunt. Then I went into coaching, same type of thing. Last year, I kind of was doing coaching, and I started getting into the food plot and prepping for deer. So we get cameras out like the amateur guy would, and, I saw this deer here. You should probably hunt deer.
Right.
Last year, I dove in. COVID gave me some more time to really dive in and dig deep. So I put up more cameras. I got kind of a food plot set up, and then this year, I'm diving real deep into deer hunting. I have a food plot set up. I posted it on our social. It's coming with a huge design, planting certain different type of crops in different areas. It's actually really cool. I worked with the guys at Domain Outdoor to kind of figure it out. So where my elevated box blind is, there's a field behind it that's my food plot. But I can't get into the box blind without the deer seeing me. So we're planting what's called incognito, which is a 14-foot tall, Egyptian grass type thing. So I'm planting that, and then the deer aren't able to see through it either. So I'm planting two walls almost, and dividing this field into 3 sections with scrape trees in each section. So I'll know how far the scrape tree is from me, and then each wall will have a door at one will be 20 yards and one will be 30 yards. So if a deer passes through that, I'll know where they are. So on the contrary, right. I'm super excited for all this. Dive in, have it grow, and to do that. But I think kind of the soccer background and having that kind of take up a lot of time has transitioned into the elk now. So I'm using that time to elk hunt, and if my bosses listen to it, I'm sorry, but they do it too. They'll listen to podcasts and stuff. So I'm constantly I either have YouTube or podcast up, listening to elk information. And I'll have usually a notepad right here beside me as I work on my computers here. And if I hear something,
doing work things.
I'm doing work things here. These 3 are work. And then I usually have my iPad and a notepad. And say someone comes on, like I was listening to a podcast, and one of the guys said, hey, make sure that, you have a plan for your wife. Like, get her a gift card to go to Starbucks while you're gone. On day 3, have someone deliver flowers. On day 7, have this happen, or just have a plan so that, because he said, if she doesn't love it, you're not going to love it.
Right, yeah, for sure. Right.
So, and I was like, that actually makes sense. So I jotted down, like, home plan. And just kind of make notes of that, so then after work I can go in. I don't have really much in the evenings going on unless I'm fishing or doing something like that or hanging out with my wife. So I'll do a little bit more research. I'll go in and go, okay, what could I do to make this time away from my wife good for her and good for me, so that I can keep doing this, but also that she's not miserable, I'm not miserable type thing. And there have been multiple times like that where they're like, hey, here's what I have in my pack. And I may jot down, the name of the YouTube video or the channel and the time, so that I can go back after work and watch that in depth with my full focus and go, oh, he's bringing that type of sleeping bag for this hunt? Well, shoot, I don't need to buy, a negative 20-degree sleeping bag. The one I have here works. Different things like that have kind of been what I've been doing through this whole time. So, and honestly, like, I eat, breathe, live, and it's like God, my wife, and hunting, fishing, outdoor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's part of who I am. Honestly, I annoy people with how much I talk about it, so it makes it easy to kind of do both. But yeah, it hasn't really taken a hit on either side. And yeah, so.
Does your wife hunt at all with you, or is that not really her deal?
She will go with me. She doesn't ever want to hunt. With how things are going, though, she's told me she might get her hunter safety just to have it.
Yeah.
So that legally she can, if, God forbid we run out of meat or something. She can shoot something too. But she'll go fishing. She'll catch fish. She just doesn't have a desire to kill an animal, which some people don't, and that's all right. I mean, it's not for everyone.
Yeah, but I've seen time and time again. Maybe they see you hunt for 10 years, and then one day they're just kind of like, why? Because most hunters. I know you got guys that just in Iowa anyway. You've got the shotgun season, Orange Army. That's the only time they go out. But I would say specific to bow hunters, there's so much damn work that goes into it. There's so much time that goes into it. And I think sometimes people really, it's like, well, here's a perfect analogy. When, as a Christian, and none of us are perfect, that's why we're Christians. Mm-hmm. But when you take steps to live your faith, when you take steps for people to see Jesus through you, every now and then you get that person that's like, something's different there. I'm curious about it. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with hunting. You've got people who they have zero interest in hunting, but then they're kind of like, they notice how passionate, like I said, especially a bow hunter, you've really got to love something to put that much work into something that really doesn't have a huge success rate. Mm-hmm. And I think over time, maybe with a spouse that doesn't have any interest, they're kind of like, oh, okay, what is this all about? Mm-hmm. And I know this year it didn't work out because I never dreamed I would kill a turkey on opening day, but I told my wife, I was like, you would love, because she loves being out in the woods and stuff. I'm like, you would love being out there. You would love yelping and hearing something gobble back. Mm-hmm. You would love it. And she's like, I'm sure I would. I could never kill an animal. And I was like, well, I'll tell you what, if I kill a turkey this year, we're taking you out. And she's like, well, we're not bringing a gun. I was like, well, we have to bring a gun because if I'm out in the woods turkey hunting, I see a dude and his wife and they're not armed, I'm like, come on, guys. So it's like, we got to bring a gun, but you need to come out with me and we'll turkey hunt without killing one. And she agreed to it. Then I killed one, luckily, opening day. And you know the story with that. So I came home and it was like 10 days later. I was like, you know what I remember? And she's like, what? I was like, you're supposed to go turkey. She's like, not this year, not this year. But she's super, super supportive of it. And it makes a big difference. But like to what you were saying, if you're going to hunt and if they don't have the interest to do it with you, I think that's just being a good husband too. Be aware that hunting is going to take a toll on your spouse. They can be the most supportive spouse in the world, but it's still going to take a toll. You know, especially I have 2 kids and they are angels. However, even kids when they're angels and you're by yourself all day long with them, you know, so being able to try to look ahead, plan things, provide things to, make it a little bit easier is a great idea. I think that's, if there's one tip for this entire episode, I think that should be it. One, be a good husband, love your wife, but be aware that if she's supportive or even if she's not super supportive, you need to take care of her first, and then that's going to make everything go smoother from there on. And you should be doing that anyway. It shouldn't just be like, well, I got your Starbucks gift card so I can go hunt. You should serve your wife and want to do things. You should be doing that all year round. But I think that's a great point to bring up for new guys who are getting into it. Understand the commitment you're making, because aside from all of the new stuff you're going to have to do in terms of getting your tags and scouting and this and that, you're going to be away more than normal. You're going to be spending time and effort and mental effort into something. And if you really love it, you're going to put a lot of time into it, and you can't let that affect your marriage, because you got to prioritize things right with that.
Definitely.
But so I'm going to hit on, I just want to kind of talk one more topic about you and your Instagram and your podcast, and then we'll wrap it up because we're coming on an hour. What was it in your, well, for you and Cam, what was it that drove you to start your Instagram, to start this podcast? For me, obviously, you know what my aim is for this, but what got you into it? Because this does take work again, and it takes support and time away from family. What about doing this stuff drew you in, and why do you love doing it and continue to do it?
I mean, Cam and I have now hunted together for probably 5 years, and every year we're like, man, wouldn't it be cool to get a video of that? Like, wouldn't it be cool? And that sparked a kind of a flame 2 years ago of, let's just make a YouTube page. Let's just put videos up. Let's record our hunts. And we didn't at the time, and then, finally I was just like, COVID happened, I was in the woods a lot, and I'm like, I love this so much that, I want to share it with people, And I'm not going to lie, like, part of why our name is Just One is because there are a lot of days when we're like, come on, can I not just see one? Just one. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Can I just hear one gobble? Can I just hear one footstep even? Like, and that's part of it, the countless hours spent in the woods. I don't remember who said it. It might have been you, but the kill isn't the best part. The kill is kind of the worst part, because that's when the work begins. That's when you have to process and take it to the processor and do that.
Yeah, remember that elk hunting, buddy.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that yet. That's still coming. No.
You might want to give it some thought.
No, I know it'll be work, but I love the mountains. I love the outdoors, so it'll be fun. But
it'll be worth every second. Yeah.
But so all those days of just wanting to see one, I was like, let's name it Just One Outdoors. So I kind of started it and just started posting stuff on Instagram, just like, hey, here's this, here's that. And I talked to Cam, just like, hey, would you want to be part of this? Like, want to do this together? Actually do it? This time, saying it more serious. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So, we're not doing it to, be Seek One or to be the Nick campaigns, to have a big name or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Our whole goal is kind of like you, get people outside, show them why we love this. And, if you don't like it, that's okay too. I mean, we're not going to force you to come outside, but if we can take you fishing, if we can take a kid fishing, or even, I was talking with a guy and he was like, I was able to tell this father and son, hey, if you go over there, you'll catch a ton of fish and you'll have a great time. The fish aren't really here because of everyone swimming. They went over there and caught a ton. If I can just do that, it's awesome. And then it also is it's a ministry opportunity. Every Sunday we post a scripture verse, and we're going to do that. There was actually a point where I was like, to be honest, our scripture verses don't get a ton of likes. And it's just how it is. But there was one Sunday where I was like, should we do this? And that Sunday, a guy commented and was like, hey, I look forward to this every Sunday. I was like, okay, you know what? We're doing this every Sunday. And, just giving glory to God, using it as a ministry. We're going to be real. We're not going to, lie to you or do anything like that. We're just going to be who we are. And if you like us, you like us. If you don't, you don't. And yeah, so all of that to say, that's how we kind of got to where we are. And now we started YouTube. We were posting videos, but it's just hard with a full-time job to edit videos. And I don't have a turkey video that I need to put together. I just have not had the time. Now and that's probably what elk hunting is taking, but the podcast came up of, we love talking about stuff. We love talking about hunting. We love talking about fishing. But the people at my church, not everyone wants to talk about hunting and fishing all the time. Right. So this is how I can talk about it a lot. And honestly, it's been one of the best decisions for us because we have met people from all over. We've interviewed guys who have shows on the Sportsman Channel. We've talked with guys this guy does coffee and is from Canada. He hunts bears. Like it's what he does. And connecting with people like you who, honestly, our paths probably never would have crossed. You're up in Iowa, I'm down in Missouri. We're closer than most people, but, I mean, honestly, like, our paths probably wouldn't have crossed just because how would they? And, it's been such a huge honor just to talk with so many people that have so much influence in their communities, people who, are like-minded, serve Christ. And, that's not a requirement to be on our podcast or anything. Like, we'll talk to anyone because we love the outdoors. But, yeah, it's just been such a fun ride that's what's keeping us doing it. If everything ended today and we weren't able to do this, I'd still be so thankful for the opportunity to talk with you, to be on podcasts, to host a podcast, and it's just a love for the outdoors that drives us to share it, and a love for God that drives us to share it.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think it's a great place to end it. Go ahead, because you guys, everything you just said, you guys do a great job of showing that and just sharing all the great things, whether it's, just things that you can joke about with like-minded hunters, just showing maybe people who aren't hunters, giving them a glimpse of what it looks like. You guys do a great job of that. Your podcast is awesome. I love listening to it. Go ahead, let people know where they can find you on Instagram, YouTube, where you're at with your podcast, where they can get a hold of you. Because, guys, if you're listening to this, you need to go listen to theirs too. And they've helped me out a ton on this. And, you guys won't be disappointed. So where can they find you guys?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, kind of, when I get around to posting on that, which is not often.
I haven't quite got into that yet.
I can't figure it out, but all of it is just One Outdoors. You should be able to search that and find us on all that. And then our podcast, which isn't necessarily geared to the new hunter. It's kind of just sharing stories, talking with guys like you about what you're doing, and talking with other people about why they love the outdoors, how they hunt, what they do, that sort of thing. And we just enjoy it. So you can find it anywhere really podcasts are available, I think. I mean, Apple, Spotify, and then there's a bunch of others that I don't know the name of, but I was able to access and got an email from another one that like pulls it from Apple Music or from Apple Podcasts. So if you can't find us, shoot us a message. We can get our podcast on there. And also, feel free to message us. You know, we're an open book. We're not in this to make money or anything. So like, if you're looking to start a podcast or something and want some advice, or a YouTube channel, I mean, we don't claim to know it all. We definitely don't know it all. But we're always willing to help. Ask us questions about hunting, fishing, whatever. We'll be happy to answer.
Awesome. So, hey guys, if you like the show, if you found value in it, if you were entertained by it, please head over to wherever you're listening to podcasts. Like, subscribe, share it. Give us a good rating if you will. If you would also head on over to Antler Feather Co. at Antler Feather Co. on Instagram and YouTube. We're on Facebook as well. And yeah, just to wrap it up, I appreciate every single one of you guys listening. You guys are what we're doing it for, and hopefully I can share some things through my experiences and all the guests to help you guys get out into the woods and enjoy that as much as we do. But with that, we'll catch you guys next week on episode number 3. This is the Antler and Feather Co. podcast. You are listening to the Antler and Feather Co. podcast.